My name is Joan Kerera. I am a family therapist. I take care of the children, the individuals, couples, and also different or many family members together. My work is to help the families to be able to heal whatever nature of pain that they may be dealing with, and also to find solutions to their own life, and then also to be able to live productively and in ways that benefit the family. So you may be asking, why divorce and separation? Everyone in this life has had a friend, a family member, someone they know who has gone through divorce and separation. And while previously it used to be something that is far-fetched or something not very near you, today we see divorce and separation happening in our families, with our children, and even with people around us. Now, previously, we also saw these challenges not being experienced a lot, even at church level. But today, even in religious organizations, we are experiencing a lot of divorce, and therefore, this is an issue that is affecting everyone. It's affecting society, it's affecting children, it's affecting families, and this is an issue that needs to be addressed. We are talking about divorce and separation. So what is the difference between the two? Separation is a period that a couple takes so that they can be able to think through. This helps them to be able to evaluate their marriage, how they coexist with each other, so that they can be able to make a decision whether to keep working on the marriage, or if the marriage is benefiting them, or if the marriage needs to end. So what is divorce? Again, divorce is a season or the process where the court dissolves the marriage, where the court brings the marriage to an end. So this can be different reasons, but when it comes to divorce, it has to be a ruling by the court, because at this point, then people are no longer thinking. They have been able to get to a point of realizing that the marriage is no longer working, and this is the time that the marriage legally comes to an end. What are some of the reasons that lead to divorce? At this point, I need to say that different people have different reasons that make them divorce. Some of the reasons can actually be worked through, because these are some of the things that happen to humanity. Some of those reasons that can be worked through if the couple is willing are reasons like we fell out of love, because there's no marriage that keeps itself or sustains itself simply by emotions. So reasons like we fell out of love can be improved and work around if the couple is equipped with skills. Even if some of the marriages end for such reasons, those are some of the reasons that are not exactly valid reasons for divorce. There are other reasons that people state, like the fact that the person presented themselves for who they were not, the fact that the in-laws have interfered with the marriage, reasons like extreme abuse, lives are threatened, and also some cases of severe addiction. There are also reasons like infidelity. Among those reasons, I would say there are two major reasons that I see as valid reasons for separation or divorce. Now, probably I need to make a difference and distinction between separation, because separation, a couple can separate for some of the reasons that are not valid for divorce, because at that point in time, they are hurting each other, they are making the environment toxic for each other, they are not able to reason and see things as they are. So for separation, diverse reasons can count for. But when it comes to divorce, there are other reasons that actually may be valid reasons for divorce. So while we agree that all the other reasons, inclusive of unresolved differences, inability to coexist, to listen to each other, the environment getting toxic, and people not being supportive of each other can be some of the reasons for separation. And that is okay, because in separation, people are able to reason, bring down their emotions, and they can be able to think through. However, when it comes to issues like divorce, I will mention three major reasons that I feel would warrant for divorce if they have not been resolved over a period of time. The first reason is when a life is threatened. Actually, at this point, I would actually encourage outright separation, and if things are not changing, even divorce. Because when a life is threatened, then there's nothing else that is as important as life. So one needs to be able to preserve their lives at whatever costs. There is nothing that should bring a life to an end, not even a marriage. Aside from a threatened life, we look at other situations like infidelity. So when and how can infidelity lead to separation and eventually divorce? Not all infidelities, I need to say, can lead to an end of marriage. And I need to say at this point, I am not justifying infidelity because it damages a marriage to very great extents. But I want to talk about infidelity because if the person who has been having extramarital affairs is able to see that they are the reason, or they have a problem inside that is not related to the marriage, but they have a personal issue, then they can be able to deal with it, and eventually the marriage can get better and stronger. But we also have cases where people do not think, even when they're in extramarital affairs, that they have a problem. They believe the other party in the marriage is the one who has a problem. If one of the partners in a marriage is having extramarital affairs and they're not able to get to a point where they admit that they need to work on themselves, then this marriage may have a challenge surviving because the person who is not in extramarital affairs will constantly get blamed, and the marriage will keep believing that by the partner who is not having extramarital affairs fixing themselves, then the marriage will get better. That is a heavy burden on someone who is not making mistakes at that point in time. So these kind of marriages can end up in separation and eventually in divorce because the people who need to have issues, the people who have issues that need to be resolved are not doing the work. And therefore, even a marriage that had the potential to go on can end up ending because someone is not taking responsibility. In severe cases of abuse, now at this point I need to say, because there's a lot of awareness about abuse and what abuse is, what is not, that in a marriage, each member of the marriage, each partner of the marriage can present with abusive behavior from time to time. Let me give an example so that you get to understand that I'm not justifying abuse in this case. One partner of the marriage can, for example, stonewall, not talk for such a long time, and the other person may be experiencing their behavior as abusive. Now, this is not the kind of behavior we are seeing warrants for separation or divorce. The reason why I say this kind of behavior can be corrected is because the moment one partner realizes that they have been having some behaviors that is being perceived as abusive towards their partner, they can be corrected, conflicts can be resolved. However, when abuse is continuous and progressive, at this point, the partner in the marriage that is being abused may need to take time off and rethink. And the partner of the marriage that is abusing may also take time to think if that is behavior they want to deal with or it is behavior they want to continue. In such a case, separation is allowed. In separation, if the two people can be able to work through these things, and there are diverse ways that people work. Some people will just go through reading and research and find themselves and be able to see they have a problem and work towards healing. Some other people will need a professional so that they can be able to evaluate and understand the causes and be able to deal with whatever they are dealing with. Either way, at this point of separation, some of these issues can be resolved, even issues of abuse, and the couple can get better. When they are not resolved, then abuse can lead to divorce. How does a couple know that they are ready for separation or divorce? Let's begin by separation. I know most of the time, especially if you check online or in other platforms, when someone talks about a challenge they are going through in marriage, the fastest responses they get is leave. Now, is this enough reason to leave? My answer is no. A couple begins to understand that they are ready for separation when, number one, they have had certain challenges over a period of time. They have attempted to resolve them in the way they know better, and these conflicts are not resolving. And let me call that step one. Step two, the couple then begins to seek for alternative ways of resolving their problems. Probably seeks help from friends, from best couples, from pastors, from families. They have sought for help. Even if at this point I need to say that some of the places that people seek for help may not be very helpful, but whichever way they have tried or attempted to find other alternatives of resolving their conflicts. I will give a number 3, which I know is not very common, but is one of my best recommendations, that they seek professional help on people who are trained to deal with marriages. Now, once you seek professional help, it gives you clarity, not just about the conflicts in the marriage, but it gives you clarity on your own behavior and the other person's behavior. It even gives clarity on where you could be picking reactions on the issues happening in the marriage from. If step 3 does not work for you, or if step 3 gets you to a place of understanding that, yes, these are my issues and I don't want to deal with them, because that is still possible with human beings. Or after professional help, you understand that these are my issues, I want to deal with them, but my partner is not willing to deal with their own issues. Then at this point, you may need to take a break to deal with yourself, if that break is the most important one for you. So once you have decided that separation would be a better way, and I only encourage a couple to take separation if the marriage is a point of crisis, or the marriage is a point of trauma, or the marriage is a point of conflict, and this conflict is constantly affecting how you deal with the issues. In other words, it's like asking you to deal with issues while you are at the war zone. So if this be the case for your marriage, it's okay to take a break and work on your issues, or work on yourself, or work on your own healing. Once you have healed, if you're dealing with a professional, they will take you through a journey of evaluation. A journey of evaluation looks like going through a process of understanding the benefits of the marriage versus the disadvantages, how the marriage is benefiting you versus how the marriage is hurting you. If at this point you realize that the benefits of the marriage are way less than how the marriage is hurting you, then separation would be an ideal thing to keep doing. If you realize that the marriage is causing you more harm and causing you lack of progression and hurting the children if there be any in that marriage, then again, you may need to consider separation and even keep at it and probably work through divorce if nothing else is working. Once evaluation has been done, in some cases, at the point of evaluation, people are still within the marriage. In some cases, they are separated. But in case you're still in the marriage at the point of evaluation, then it means that you need to prepare yourself holistically. You look at the financial part of yourself, the emotional side, the physical side, the mental side. What are the losses that are going to come with this separation? Again, at this point, a professional helps you to evaluate and equips you with skills to begin to deal with those things way before leaving the marriage. In some cases, people are not secure just leaving the marriage because their lives are at risk. Actually, research has shown that within the first 2 years of leaving the marriage, a huge number of people may get hurt by their spouses. So if your marriage presents some risk when you leave, then you also need to work through this way before leaving the marriage. At this point, after going through the whole process of preparing yourself to be able to equip yourself to take care of yourself, and if there are any children involved post the separation, then I will say you're ready for separation. What are some of the questions then to ask yourself if you're considering separation? The first question to ask is, what are the benefits and what are the areas that are not benefiting me in a marriage. I always recommend that people do a 2-page document or divide the page into 2 and write against each other so that it gives you clarity. Number 2, ask yourself, am I reacting out of emotions or am I rational enough? For this one, I recommend that you take time off, calm down, be at your best. When you're no longer angry, when you're no longer bitter, then you can be able to think through if separation is what you need. The third question that someone needs to ask themselves is, if I leave this marriage, will I regret because of the benefits that the marriage was providing for me? Because for you to be in a marriage, there have to be some level of benefits anyway. And the last question to ask is, if I leave and I experience the emotions that come with a separation, which are extremely heavy. There are heavy, heavy emotions that come with separation. Some people break down way post separation, and others are able to move through life with separation because of the heavy emotions and the effects of separation that come along. Then ask yourself, if I get into the most darkest space post separation, will I be confident that I made the right decision? If you ask yourself those questions and all of them your answer becomes yes, then you are ready for separation. So you ask, what about those who have children? Yes, the well-being of the children really, really counts. And so it's also important to look at the children. And where children are concerned, if I leave the marriage, then who takes care of the children? How do I help the children understand what is happening? Has this marriage been harmful to the children in any way? And by leaving, how will I ensure the well-being of the children? While I know sometimes children are not affected by the issues of the marriage, but I also know that it is important for you to think about them. And while I say children cannot be exactly the reason why someone is staying in a marriage that is not benefiting them or that is hurting them, I also need to say that the well-being of the children need to be thought before separation happens. So how do you prepare for separation or for divorce? Let me say at this point, different people have different causes, have different dynamics. So if the couple is together, they are in agreement that the best thing to do is to separate or it is to divorce, this one is much easier because they will discuss way forward. They will discuss how to handle children if children are involved. They'll also agree who goes with what. At this point, it is also possible for them to agree on how finances will be handled, how different aspects of the marriage and also children will be handled. This is the best case scenario, even if it is not what happens to everyone. In other cases where a life is threatened, there isn't much preparation to do. The highest level of preparation is to ensure that once you leave the place, the marriage that is abusive, then you have to work around safety so that you or the children will not be harmed in the process, or even family members. So the only thing to think about where a life is threatened is the safety of yourself, the children if you have any, or your family members. So where life is threatened, the only thing we are thinking about at this point is life. Work on dynamics to provide safety to you, to the children, and to your family. Where there's no threat to life and simply abuse is happening, it depends with the intensity of abuse. If it is severe abuse and the person that is abusing the other in the marriage will not let them go, then the person that needs to leave the marriage has to do it in ways that will ensure that they are safe and they will find ways of escape. Again, this is very different from a couple that is in agreement. In this case, the attention is paid on the escape route or how to live without being harmed and also without being stopped. because in a sense, life is threatened even if death may not be the issue here. In cases where there are probably levels of conflict and there are signs that no one may harm you, then people will take different approaches. Approach number one is to alert your partner that you're leaving and that you feel the marriage is not safe. Then have some level of discussion if they can be heard. If they cannot be heard, then find a way of leaving, but you leave while you have informed. In cases where informing the person is not perceived as safe, then again you plan your exit, but you also ensure that where you're going, you have a way of self-sustaining. And by self-sustaining, I mean emotionally. Be sure that there's a support system to help you navigate through the emotional effects of separation. Ensure that you will be provided for, ensure that the children will be fed and safe, ensure they will continue with school. That is, if you have any children. In some cases, then also people continue with professional help because they have not had separation before and they may need to continually be equipped with skills of dealing with the effects of separation. So the preparation is very diverse and it depends, it can only be evaluated case by case and looked through the reasons of wanting to separate. The most ideal, as I said again, is where discussions are had, where two people sit even to explain the children the reason or what is happening in the marriage. But where that is not possible, still one member of the marriage can plan their exit without affecting the other negatively and without causing harm to themselves. What are the effects of separation or divorce? So we will look at them differently. We begin with physical, and physical also includes sexual. So physically, you'll have absence of a partner, so that the person who you were with from time to time or daily is no longer there. It also means that if your partner was helping with children or in any other ways, you have to depend on yourself to do the physical things that they were doing. It also means that sexually, you will actively have no present partner, assuming the marriage was sexually active. But in cases where that was happening, then one may strategize on how to deal with their own sexuality, not necessarily meet their needs unless your value system allows that. Then you can find a way of how to manage your own, the sexual part of your life. So mentally, what are some of the effects that one goes through post-separation? There are so many questions that are asked both by the person and by the society that kept this person mentally drained and on some form of override, because one is constantly asking themselves, did I do better? Are there things that I was supposed to do? If I extended myself further, would it have been okay? Then also the questions of society and you thinking that you would have waited longer, that there are people who are having it worse than you. And this takes a mental toll on someone. A lot of regret, thinking that if this person works on themselves and gets better, or they found another person who is best by their side, and then they end up having a wonderful marriage, are you not going to have missed on a wonderful marriage that person might have as well been you, and another person is going to enjoy what you labored for? There's also the aspect of you put in so much work and your spouse had so much grown as you lived together. So also wondering, is someone going to come and take over every single effort that you had made? So mentally, it takes a toll on the person. There are also the kind of things, what if life becomes very difficult for you? You end up being a very miserable person and your spouse ends up doing extremely well. Then will the universe or society or whichever other area not judge you very harshly? Those are some of the mental issues that person experiences post-separation. There are also emotional issues that a person goes through, and part of it is self-blame, thinking that it's your fault that the marriage did not work. is guilt, thinking that you'd have put in more work for the marriage to work. It is also anger, it is resentment, it is bitterness, it is a need to revenge, thinking because they hurt you so bad, then the universe, or in some cases even people pray. They pray that God punish these people for being unfair to them. They hope that the worst misery is going to happen to them. And in many cases, no misery takes place. This is a place of just going through the normal emotions, but then one needs to be able to work through these emotions because they can hold you captive for such a long time of your being. The other emotional issues that people go through is depression. It is also being in spaces where you feel like life has no meaning, you can't continue with life. It's going through extreme periods of loneliness and also times of self-doubt. Not self-doubt, but times of crisis, identity crisis, wondering who you are, especially in cases where you had been married for a period of time. And so you also had fit in the title of a wife to someone. Then all of a sudden you're not a wife. There is a lot of identity around this. Some people confess that they find it very difficult to be able to call themselves single because they actually don't know if they're single or they're married while in separation. Some of these emotional issues can be extremely draining. And at this point, I would like to say that where you can be able to work through marriage without separation, without divorce, these are not pleasant emotions for anyone to deal with.